Matt Gaetz. Oh, see, right? Do you see how powerful that was? Did you see Matt Gaetz squirmed a little when he said that? Like your colleague Rick Scott. Let me give you guys a rundown. This is Cenk Uygur. You know, he has interviewed a lot of people. Anna's in this as well. But they got a lot of heat for taking on Matt Gaetz for an election night interview. Only a 17-minute video, so it's a lot of heat for a very short conversation. But the reason they got heat was because they're like, a lot of people were like, why is Cenk Uygur and Ana Kasparian, the Young Turks, giving a platform to Matt Gaetz when he has all these charges against him for sex trafficking a minor? And this is a guy who's an extremist. He's very far right. He's very bad. And personally, I said at the time, they're reporters. It's their job. What do you mean? This isn't like a random candidate either. This is a sitting congressman. Not even a not well-known sitting congressman. This is a decently known. Like, I don't think most Americans know who Matt Gaetz is, but I think anybody who follows politics regularly knows who Matt Gaetz is. And that's not even necessarily for good reason. It's actually probably for bad reasons, like, you know, the sex trafficking stuff. But he's a sitting congressman. He votes on legislation. He has influence. He has power. Even if he has a bad record and you don't like him and you think he's a bad person, their job is to interview him. Now, if they give him a soft ball interview and they don't give him any tough questions and it's not a good interview, then you can criticize them for that. But I mean, they're a pretty mainstream news channel interviewing a politician who holds real political power. This isn't some random online neo-Nazi or some crazy internet extremist. This is somebody who has power. It is their job to interview people like this and to hold politicians to account. That is supposed to be the job of the press. And that is what I hope the Young Turks are trying to do here. Now, if they do the interview bad, they do the interview bad. And that would be bad. But I still stand by the fact that they 100% are in their moral right to do the interview as long as they do the interview well and they don't let them be too slippery. Got to hold them to account.
Right now, Representative Matt Gaetz is winning by 21, although the race has not been called yet. And Matt Gaetz joins us now. Welcome, Matt.
Oh, thanks for having me, Cenk. I think ABC News and CNN have both called my race. Couldn't have been too easy for them, but sure glad to see the voters come out for me.
All right. So, Representative Gaetz, if the Republicans win the House tonight, what is your strategy going forward? What will you emphasize in the next term?
I think it's all the I's. I think it's inflation, immigration, and investigations. And we have a mandate now to try to limit spending. I think also people are very concerned about what's happening on the border. And
I don't think they have a mandate to limit spending. I don't think that at all was the mandate that was given. Definitely since, you know, the Democrats kept the Senate, which is very important when it comes to finance. And we don't even know that they've taken back the House yet necessarily. You could maybe make the argument for investigation, since that, you know, that's the House's jam, and maybe they earned the mandate for that. But that would also indicate that they won because the American people needed to get to the bottom of Hunter Biden. When I feel like it is true that I think they probably got a lot of votes from inflation, I don't necessarily think they tipped the scale because of Hunter Biden investigations. So I do think they're gonna have the most influence when it comes to investigations. But I think the reason they picked up seats, even though they still haven't won the House yet, they probably will though, barely, was because of inflation.
And when it comes to the weaponization of this government against our people, folks want to see the FBI, the Department of Justice, called to heel and called to account. That used to be something that liberals actually stood for, civil liberties and stopping the excesses of the politicization of investigations. And now the Republicans that will be leading the House Judiciary Committee will have that as our central focus.
So inflation being high, you mentioned it first. Obviously, wages is a very large issue. So do you think that we should raise the minimum wage so that the American people's salaries can keep up with the rising costs of all the goods that they're having to deal with?
So the time when we saw rising wages was really during the Trump presidency. I don't believe that government-mandated minimum wages are actually the way to increase real wages. Actually, a lot of economists say that raising the minimum wage can be inflationary. Our strategy to tackle inflation will focus on cutting government spending, not having a regime that pays people not to work. I think able-bodied...
What's with this word regime? I keep hearing the word regime. Why? I heard Mike Cernovich say regime. Matt Gaetz is saying regime. Why are we all using the word regime now? Is it just like a small jab to be like, ah, Biden's a dictator? Is that really it? Like, I just don't understand it. It's been their thing for a year. Yeah. So this is the thing where I would like to see how Cenk responds to this, whether he's going to be like, well, my economists disagree. But I mean, that's what this argument gets to. Whether or not raising the minimum wage would help or hurt working people or just worsen the inflation crisis right now. It depends on the economists you speak to. And I very much doubt that in the 17 minutes that this interview is done, that they get to the specifics of the inflation crisis and how the minimum wage could help or hurt.
Childless adults should be subject to work requirements. Previously, when Republican states have tried to do that, Democrat administrations haven't allowed them to, haven't issued appropriate waivers. And so if we can legislate work requirements into government funding bills, I think that'll be a good counter pressure on inflation.
All right, so raising wages, not what you're planning to do to counter inflation. Got it. Anna.
No, we raise wages. I just don't think the way to raise wages is a government-mandated minimum wage increase.
Yes.
So how would...
Oof, Matt did well there. Matt did well there. He didn't let him. He saw that what Cenk was doing, and immediately grabbed him. Put him back on the rails. Said, nope, not letting you say that. Matt's doing pretty good so far. First question, Matt did well. I think it's a loser generally to say you're against raising minimum wage. Majority of Americans are in favor of it, but he handled it very well, and Cenk, kind of got handled there at the end.
Wages increase out of the kindness of corporations' hearts, who have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders and keep doing corporate stock buybacks and dividends for their shareholders?
No fan of big corporations. I think the biggest threat to our liberty is big government. The second biggest threat, big corporations, and probably the third would be homeowners associations. But I do think that during
the third is homeowners associations. Okay, whatever. Got you.
Trump era, we saw wages rise as a consequence of capital investment and the onshoring of cash that was largely pushed offshore to preserve intellectual property assets and revenue streams. And if we allowed more of that capital to come back into our country again, I think we would do a lot to see the investment in the workforce. Look, if you go around any district, Republican or Democrat right now, the number one issue for a lot of small businesses is just how to get people to show up to work. And when you have a government that pays able-bodied people not to work, it really cuts against the ambitions and interests and dreams of a lot of the small businesses that are the backbone of our country.
Okay, can you please be specific about what you're referring to when you say a government that pays people not to work? And be specific in regard to numbers. How much money are Americans allegedly getting paid by the government to sit home and not work?
Well, during the pandemic era, people got checks. And
when there were shutdowns, when companies were shut down, yes.
All of that was inflationary. And I also think that when you provide government benefits to able-bodied childless adults, like Medicaid, like childcare, like transportation, like cell phones, then you create in the economy a bubble. And when that bubble bursts, a lot of working class people, folks that liberals actually used to stand up for, those folks get crushed and hammered when they go to the grocery store, when they go to the gas station. I also think Republicans are going to have a pretty big energy bill. Now, I'm not a drill everywhere, drill anywhere kind of guy. I think we've got to be smart and strategic, but certainly we want to see the Keystone Pipeline reopen. We want to see more of the fracking and shale development in the interior of the country. And I think that just reducing energy prices will do a great deal to lower inflation, because you see those energy prices baked in at every layer of the supply chain.
Well, I think it's a common myth that's repeated over and over again by both the press.
Okay, so far Matt Gaetz is doing very, very well here. Like there's not really much resistance that either Cenk or Anna has given. I think Anna's about to pick it up. because you're seeing. I think we're about to see Anna pick this up. Because it's like now or never time, because now you're getting towards like 20% in, 30% in. You know, this is the part of interviews that a lot of people don't even listen past this. Like, if you were to end the interview now and like go get a sandwich, forget that you're watching the Matt Gaetz interview, the perception the average American will walk away from this interview having would be like maybe a few bad impressions of saying he wouldn't raise the minimum wage, but that Matt Gaetz is educated, he knows what he's talking about, he had good responses to these questions, he was detailed. Like I'm shocked. I think Cenk and Anna would despise Gaetz. Oh no, they'd probably absolutely despise Gaetz. I just think Gaetz is very well media trained. There's a reason why he has so much attention as a very young congressman. Very good at public speaking. Not necessarily legislating, but public speaking.
And the Republican Party. We are the top oil and gas producer in the world. We're also the top exporter of oil and gas because our natural resources are completely owned by private corporations who get to sell those natural resources to the highest bidder. So if you're actually genuinely concerned about keeping gas prices low at the pump, we could nationalize our oil and gas. Would you be willing to do that?
No, I don't know that the Venezuela energy model is one that the American people are voting for.
Okay, so you want to allow corporations to export the oil and gas to the highest bidders internationally. Got it.
I think we should repeal the Jones Act because you're right, there is production that's up. But as a consequence of the Jones Act, we're not able to actually get that energy to the places that we need it so that there's broad distribution and lower prices. So actually, there's a deregulation answer that I think would unlock lower prices for the American people given what we currently produce.
I wanted to just quickly, Cenk, one follow-up, and then I'll let you take over. The point that you made about social services like Medicaid.
It felt like Matt. I mean, like at the end of the day, it's an interview, so they have to let him like respond to these questions. And it's not like a debate. It's not like a scheduled debate. If it was a scheduled debate, this would probably be different. But like Matt Gaetz' he's just doing exceptionally well right now. It feels like every question they've thrown his way, he's knocked out of the park quite well. Like some of them, he hasn't done perfect because he just has the unpopular position, like not raising the minimum wage. But he's doing well. He's doing very well.
Which provides health care to literally the most impoverished people in the country. How exactly do you claim that leads to inflation? I mean, I can explain how the Federal Reserve engaging in quantitative easing, literally printing money and giving it to banks and corporations who then turned around and invested in their own stocks and did dividends and all of that. That definitely led to asset bubbles. Private equity firms buying up entire neighborhoods of single-family homes based on the money that was given to them by the Federal Reserve. That led to inflation in the housing market. I want you to explain exactly how Medicaid leads to inflation.
Well, first of all, I agree with you regarding those corporate excesses. I am one of the people on top.
Listen to see if he responds specifically about the question about Medicaid, how Medicaid is increasing the inflation.
Thomas Massey's bill to audit the Fed for the very reasons you laid out. I think the Fed has become a distribution system for corporate welfare, and then that cuts against working class Americans. But when you have people who aren't working, but who are still able to get child care, health care, not as a consequence of being poor or sick or infirm or elderly, but just because of the Medicaid expansion that was ushered in through Obamacare, I think that is inflationary because then people don't have to go out and spend cash and have a real economic exchange for the services that they're receiving, often as the result of government largesse.
So what I've heard so far is that giving people child care, health care, and higher wages is leading to...
Okay. How would you guys advise Cenk to move forward from this point? Because Cenk's about to pick up. Now, Cenk could move on to other questions and basically just give up the last, 7 minutes to Matt and see if he can just dominate the rest of it, or he could try to revisit some stuff. And how would you approach it? Would you want him to like go aggressive? Would you want him to not be too aggressive? Would you want it just to become full yelling, shouting match, go debate mode? Would you want him to just be more surgical, ask for more specifics to see if he knows the specifics? What do you think? I would say Anna did something smart when he asking for the specifics about Medicaid. I think there's two routes to go here. You ask more specific, tailored questions about his record, and I would be asking him about votes he's done in the last year that were unpopular, that are generally unpopular votes, and possibly getting more aggressive about, like, you know, the thing that we all know is around Matt Gaetz, or any amount of claims and lies that he's told. I think bringing up these things to ask, can people trust him? Is he an honest actor? Do the amount of times he has lied on the campaign trail? I think doing that would making sure to come back to specifics if he doesn't answer the specific question. Like, if you ask him specifically, why did you vote yes on the bill to kick grandma? And he's like, look, I think there's a lot of solutions to deal with the grandma issue. And then you got to bring it back to that. You got to bring it back. But okay, but specifically grandma, why kick grandma? Why'd you vote yes to that? That would be the two things I think they would have to go forward on. But this is stuff they have to have pre-prepared. This is stuff they have to have pre-prepared, like, this is his voting record. These are the specific things we want to ask him about, because these are bad things that he did, and bad things he voted for, or bad things he voted on, and then ask specifics about that. But I don't know if they have any of that, or if they're just asking topical questions.
Heard so far is that giving people child care, health care, and higher wages is leading to inflation, and you guys are going to try to tackle inflation. So that what I'm hearing from you is lower wages, less child care, less health care. That sounds perfectly Republican.
Things.
That what I don't. Okay, I don't know what that. I think Cenk's solution is to like frontal assault, and he was starting something there, and then I feel like he just kind of fumbled it. I think he almost forgot what he was saying. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. I don't know what happened. I really don't. And now Matt, because it's very obvious that Cenk was supposed to go hard there, Matt can just respond hard while he took like no damage. He's like a Pokemon where like you expended all your EXP or whatever. I don't know how Pokemon works. You use your experience points or whatever. Cenk put in the effort, didn't get a response. But now Matt, he can go in. He can go in. Now it's acceptable for him to go in. It's not very effective, exactly. So water type versus a grass type or whatever. I don't know. Whatever the Pokemon thing is. Fire, grass, whatever it is.
It's not just the government that can do these things. There are private sector solutions as well. If people make more money, if the economy is growing at a faster rate, like it did under President Trump, then I do think we would be able to achieve those objectives. But government spending is inflationary. That is the central covenant of this election that we're going through, that Republicans are very likely to win across the country. People want to see less government spending. Now, I don't think we ought to cut government spending for disabled people like my mother, for seniors. I don't want to touch Social Security or Medicare, but specifically with the Obamacare Medicaid expansion, you have able-bodied people who could go to work, but who choose not to, and I don't think we should provide those things for them.
Right. So we clearly have a different point of view. We see corporations with record profits continuing to drive prices up. There's exit polling showing that 83% of the voters wanted the government to do something about that. Instead, they have let those corporations gouge us over and over again as Republicans protected them. But to be fair, so did Biden. So now I want to move on to one of the things that we're most concerned about, which is democracy.
Hold on. I crossed the aisle and joined with Democrat David Cicilline to actually utilize antitrust tools to go after the very type of corporate greed that you're talking about. I'm actually hoping to persuade more people in this incoming Republican majority that
Matt Gaetz is dominating this interview. I feel like they really should have went into the specifics of Matt Gaetz' record. I feel like maybe hopefully it's the last half. Like, I think the specifics of Matt Gaetz' record would be great. Asking him about his record of dishonesty, asking about his record when it comes to his agenda, what he has voted on already, instead of issues where you can just say, yeah, I'm going to go for this good option. That, like, specifics about his voting record, which we know are unpopular things he's voted in favor on or voted against, like the Inflation Act, stuff like that. Like, okay, you want to deal with the inflation crisis? Why didn't you vote against the Anti-Inflation Act, which was right there? You didn't vote. Like, there's a million paths of attack that could have been prepared beforehand. Hopefully the later half of this interview is going to have them, because so far they just don't have them. Because right now it's kind of like, it's almost like freestyle, and like Matt Gaetz could just go off as much as he wants.
The way to govern is not to just give the lobby corps the power. I'm the only Republican in Congress who doesn't take any money from any lobbyists or any PACs, full stop. And so I actually think there could be common ground with Democrats. So, and if we can get the Biden Justice Department to actually be serious about the enforcement of antitrust laws, I actually think we could do a lot to curb that corporate greed.
So, look, we're a fair show. So it's obvious that we disagree with you on a lot of things, and we got more coming up in a second. But it is true that you don't take that corporate PAC money, and like the corporate people on the left that don't take the corporate PAC money.
Take any PAC money, not just corporate PAC money, no ideological PAC money, no leadership PAC money, and I stand alone as a Republican on that front.
That's right, and that's what allows you to criticize big business, whereas almost all of your colleagues serve big business, by the way, including Rick Scott, who has promised to cut Social Security and Medicare in the same state of Florida. Now,
Matt Gaetz. Oh, see, do you see how powerful that was? Did you see Matt Gaetz squirmed a little when he said that? Like your colleague Rick Scott, who voted to end social, blah, 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 blah. It was effective because it was bringing up the record. He was bringing up the record. It was like, boom, this is official. He voted on it. Like, it's not debatable. We know he voted against it. Like, boom, got him. If he just had that for Matt Gaetz ready, that would be very effective. You saw how, like, boom, if that was Rick Scott, that would have been amazing. But the thing is, this isn't Rick Scott. This is Matt Gaetz.
We're worried about democracy.
See, and Matt Gaetz can't jump to his defense because what's he going to do? Come out against Social Security? He's not Rick Scott. He's Matt Gaetz. He's got to defend Matt Gaetz' image first, not Rick Scott's. And see, I'm just saying, like, that right there was the most effective attack that's been thrown so far. Not even attack, but the most effective, like, criticism that deserves a response. And it's directed at somebody who's not even being interviewed here. I mean, whatever.
Matt. And in 2020, Trump clearly lost the election. He then did 60 court cases, he and his allies, and he could not present one piece of evidence. And he still insisted on lying about...
Okay, here we go. This is what I wanted. Second half, we're going to take it back.
...how he had won the election. So can you just be honest for once and say that Donald Trump definitely lost the 2020 election?
Joe Biden is definitely the president. I think there were a lot of irregularities there.
Oh, he's dodging. He's dodging. Shank's got to bring it back. Shank's got to bring it back.
In this election,
honestly,
was talking so much about the last.
Shank should have cut him off right there when you said Joe Biden is president. I didn't ask you if Joe Biden was president. I'm asking you if Donald Trump lost. Answer that question. He needs to redouble on that because that looks dodgy. That looks slimy. He looks slippery. Chank's bringing it back. He's the comeback king. Chank, stay focused. Stay on it, man. Stay on it. You got to be in. Matt Gaetz is out. He's an outboxer. He's outboxing. You got to get in there. You got to, like Mike Tyson, dip and weave and get in and make sure to keep the pressure on him. Keep the pressure on him. Be like Tyson. Be like Fury. Get in there. Get in there.
Election. Look, Democrats went all in on this democracy message, and it's going to get crushed nationwide. It's going to lose.
Oh God! And then Gary Lake, Mehmet Oz, all of the election deniers high up got trounced. The high up election deniers, the election deniers that were in spots that they could have lost, they seem to have lost. Matt Gaetz' faction of the Republican Party just got significantly weaker this election. My God! I mean, he couldn't have known at this time. I think maybe this was at like 5 p.m. But my goodness, he has no clue what's coming. What's coming his way.
Not because people don't like democracy, but because people believe that Joe Biden and Democrats are engaging in threat construction around democracy as a substitute for an economic plan, for something that will actually result in people making more money.
See, he's going off. He's going off topic. He's going off topic. He's like, Democrats are running off democracy, and now he's off of it. He's off the question of whether Donald Trump lost in 2020. He didn't answer the question. He's now off of it. He's now talking about the economy again, trying to stay on his message, which he's probably been told by Republican strategists, stay on the economy, stay on the economy, stay on the economy. It's where the Republicans are strongest right now in the eyes of the public. And so he's already shifted. So you got to drag him back, saying, I didn't ask about the economy. I asked about Donald Trump winning the election. You said Joe Biden's the president, but that's not what I asked. I asked, did Donald Trump lose? Admit that he lost. Like, he lost, right? Like, drag it back, please, Cenk.
Their businesses. So I don't think that obsess about this is going to be politically helpful for Democrats. And by the way,
Anna,
I don't
please.
think democracy's
Anna,
in any
please.
jeopardy. We've had a record turnout for a midterm election today, and that seems to show that a democracy in our country is alive, well, and it's certainly something that I
By the way, remember that if Matt Gaetz starts saying there's something fishy about the results, that he said, hey, it looks like, hey, look at the high turnout. Look at the high turnout. Everything looks good. Democracy is alive and well. Remember that.
Support wholeheartedly.
Hold on, guys. I have breaking news while we're talking to Matt Gaetz. New York Times has just called your race. Matt Gaetz has won in his district in Florida right now as we speak to him. And I did notice, though, Representative Gaetz, that you evaded the question. You said that Biden is president.
There we go. Thank you.
You didn't say Biden won the election. He obviously did, and you know it. But I'll move on. Anna.
No, don't move on. Why would you move on? Why would you move on? You finally got him. You have him. You have him. Why would you move on? Why would you move on? Cenk, you had him. You had him. You had him. You like reared up, and then you were just like, eh. And you know what? Matt is super happy. I can already see it in his eyes. Look at it. He's a sparkle.
Hold on, I gotta quit.
See, he's happy. He's like, okay, fine, I'll move on. That's the greatest news I heard all week. Thank you very much. Like, Cenk had. See, this is what I would want more of this interview to be. What Cenk was just doing before he like moved on. I guess look. They have 17 minutes and they want to use it wisely. But I would rather hammer home 3 questions solidly than ask 7 or 8 and have them answered half-heartedly. Honestly, because at least there's going to be a deeper understanding of those 3 questions, and you can't like get away from it thinking somebody dodged it. It could, whatever.
Follow-up question to something you said.
Very
you just made a vague statement about some irregularities. There are some irregularities, and you were one of the individuals who pushed the lie that the election.
God, she just asked the same question again. You had him. You had him.
Was stolen from Trump. So be specific. What are the so-called irregularities? Because the Trump camp failed to provide a shred of evidence indicating that there was.
See, they had him on a specific. And that's always where I think it's going to be hardest for Matt Gaetz to thrive, is on a very specific. But she just asked, like, name the irregularities. He can bring up any number of conspiracy theories, or even possibly true things, but possibly misrepresent it, or there's any number of things he could bring up now. You had him on that. I can't get over myself. I can't get my head around this. You had him. You had him on that question. Why would you move on if you're going to ask him another question about the election anyway? If he's just going to keep dodging, just show him to be a dodger of questions. Like, I think everyone would have not acknowledged that he dodged the question, and showing that more clearly and letting it really just the silence ring out when you ask the question and he just has no response. That's so impactful. It's something that people remember. It's like, you want to know why Fetterman. Could you imagine if the debate moderators asked Fetterman about fracking and then never followed up when he dodged the question? But the fact that they followed up and say you didn't answer the question, it's something that people remember from the debate. It was a real fail for Fetterman because they followed up and they kept up the pressure on it. And like, I can't get my head around it. But they're bringing it back to the election. I just think they should have stayed on course.
Widespread voter fraud, yet you and other Trump allies continued repeating that the election was stolen from him. So be specific. What exactly are you referring to?
I'm really concerned about some of these urban areas that operate under an entirely different system than the rest of their states.
This is also not a direct answer. Like, what specific instances of fraud caused the election to be like listen to the question again. 1 second. I'm sorry I'm taking my time with this.
Election was stolen from Trump. So be specific. What are the so-called irregularities? Because the Trump camp.
What are the irregularities that caused the election to be stolen? And he's like, I'm worried about the urban areas. Like, this isn't proof that the election was stolen or anything to write home about when the election is stolen. This is like something maybe someone should look into, kinda. Like, at best case scenario.
Failed to provide a shred of evidence indicating that there was widespread voter fraud, yet you and other Trump allies continued repeating that the election was stolen from him. So be specific. What exactly are you referring to?
I'm really concerned about some of these urban areas that operate under an entirely different system than the rest of their states. For example, in Wayne County, Michigan, the mechanism by which ballots are assembled is totally different than in the other parts of the state. And I don't think that volume alone justifies that. I also think that in Pennsylvania, a major irregularity was the change in the way that ballots were mailed out. In time after time.
Man, they're allowing him to do so much maneuvering now when they could have just had him on. I'm sorry, I keep coming back to it. I just can't. I couldn't imagine. And I guess no, I could imagine because I've made that same mistake before. And the reason I'm angry at them isn't because I'm perfect. The reason I'm angry at them, I'm not really even angry at Anna Cenk, but the reason I'm frustrated is because I've made that same mistake again, and I know it's like it's like no, I've been there, not again. It's oof.
We saw secretaries of state take unilateral action to go and engage in this broad distribution of ballots. I think that is ripe for fraud, and I don't think that it was constitutional. Now, Cenk made an important point about the 60.
The courts weighed in on that, though, right?
Yep, I want to get to that because almost all of those
good pressure. There we go.
All of those cases were resolved in the absence of an evidentiary hearing. So it's not exactly fair to say that we lost because we didn't have sufficient evidence. So no, a lot of them were decided on jurisdictional grounds and on the sufficiency of the pleadings, not based on an actual evidentiary hearing.
Pressure it. If it's not true and you both, seems like both of them know this, pressure. Keep the pressure up. You got to at least finish this strong. Let's do it.
Both sides got to put
come back, kid. Come on.
Information before the court. So it's a little, I think, misleading to suggest that 60 hearings around the country where evidence was presented.
Matt. Some were decided on jurisdictional grounds, but the majority were decided on the merits. And every judge, including every Republican judge, including every Trump-appointed judge, said, you have not presented any evidence, including the evidence that you were just talking about now. When in court.
Oh, this is the pressure. Yes, Cenk, come back, kid. Come on, let's do it. Finally. They took the long way there, but they've arrived.
There was none, zero. And by the way, Matt, you can tell from your answers, you don't believe it either. It's super obvious you don't believe it.
But yeah, I can tell by your questions, you guys still have no message, because instead of talking about how we're going to actually move the country forward, you guys
see, he's still dodging. He's trying to drag it away. All Cenk should do is say, look, I'm asking you because, if you don't respect the results of an election, how can we trust you with our democracy? That's why I'm asking you these questions. He can just keep up and just bring it right back to the question, because he's trying to get off of it again because he was wrong. And he knows he's wrong. So he's trying to fight out of it so he can get back to the economy, which is what he wants the message on.
We're still obsessed about the 2020
No,
election.
Matt, I'm not a regular Democrat. I don't care about their messaging. What I care about is if your friend Donald Trump wins in 2024, we might never have another election because he's an obvious pathological liar, doesn't believe in democracy, didn't want to leave even though he lost the election, and you know it.
Cenk, the last time you were on the ballot, you got 4% of the vote. So for you,
what? What does that have to do with any?
Oh, there it goes. Cenk threw a blow. It hit. It made impact. It really hurt. Right, I think Cenk went a little over the line, not over the line, but kind of like he kind of double dipped a bit by going in. And we might never have another election. He should have said Trump doesn't care about democracy. I think that would have been enough. But I'm happy to see him on the attack, I'm not really on the attack, but see him giving pressure rather than kind of like holding back. And then Matt Gaetz out of nowhere starts going after Cenk for another diversion. Gaetz is great at diversions. It's a diversion away from the question again. Diversion away from this to Cenk's own personal political failures. It is crazy that he only got 4%, though. That is crazy.
Anything that we're talking about right now.
Okay, Matt, if we're going in that direction, listen, you had sex with a 17-year-old, according to Alex.
Oh, there it is. Oh, there's the dumpster fire. There it is. It escalated. See, this is the thing, right? Right? Matt Gaetz, I feel like Matt Gaetz, like on one hand, he can go hard in any conversation because I think he's very verbally skilled. But he also, there's like so many weak spots to go after him on. So there's always going to be like some backlash. So I feel like so Cenk threw like the left hook. He like hits, boom, hits him on the idea Trump's a liar, doesn't care about democracy. So Gaetz tries to counter with his unrelated topic about Cenk's, election whatever. He did bad in an election, which again, he did really bad in that election. And so Cenk's like, okay, pedophile. And so now we've reached the natural conclusion of what I thought this conversation would probably reach anyway. Eventually they would get to this topic. It's almost like an insurmountable topic for Matt Gaetz in any conversation. Like it's just so easy to just say, what's with these Venmo payments, Gaetz? What's with these Venmo payments?
Allegations.
Unironically, by just bringing it up, it's bad for Gaetz. Because it just reminds everybody of the allegations' existence.
And you asked for a pardon. Hold on. You asked for a pardon. You asked for a pardon. Why did you ask for the pardon?
Yeah, why did you ask Trump for a pardon if you didn't break any laws?
Sleeping with a
I've been
17-year-old.
overwhelmingly reelected. You guys are in some sort of weird struggle session there, and I'm just glad, even though.
Ooh, now he looks like he's The thing is, Gaetz, unironically, I think Gaetz almost certainly knows more about the case than both Cenk and Ana. I think if he really wanted to, he could get into the nitty-gritty of the case, and there's a decent chance he could actually win win in the idea that like he seems more informed. Not win PR-wise, because they're talking about allegations of him sleeping with an underage person and engaging in sex trafficking, right? There's no way to win that optically, but like there's like a way out. You get what I'm saying? It's like a less of a loss for him, but it feels more like he's dodging it, which then honestly just makes it look worse. And that's the thing. He could just say the case was dropped. Exactly. He could just say, hey, the case was dropped. He could just say that. Like, that doesn't prove he's innocent. But, like, most people would hear that and they'd be like, oh, like, okay. I mean, that's... like, it's not, like, an exoneration of him. It doesn't prove that he's innocent. But it does prove that, the state, they didn't have enough evidence to move forward. So, God. I wonder. Why didn't he go there? Maybe I'm giving him too much credit when it comes to his verbal ability. I don't know.
Hated you having me on. Cenk, you're getting to see what a congressional victory party looks like, and that's something that might be a novel experience.
Why did you ask for a pardon for having sex with a 17-year-old?
Something that even happened. You're like reading into an anonymous
he looks like he's
internet
dodging
conspiracy. And it's really sad because in my
now
district,
Gaetz is
the
fumbled.
voters saw
Gaetz
through
fumbled.
that. In my state, we're overwhelming.
Did you ask for the pardon?
That has all been debunked. I've addressed it. President Trump has addressed it. And by the way, you should look at your own comments about women that caused Bernie Sanders to unendorse you. Imagine being so aligned with Bernie Sanders that he would endorse you, but he has to pull his endorsement because the things that you said were so
Yeah. Well, Matt, see, some people grow up and they change. Others send their colleagues in Congress nude photos of women that they've slept with today.
Oh,
And,
I forgot about that. There is accusations he did that. I forgot about that. That's like a year old story.
But I appreciate you coming on to answer our questions.
People who told those lies
Did
are
your
going to the
father,
big
by any chance, get
They
involved?
were not lies,
in,
Maddie. You know it.
Investigation
Dude, it's no wonder you guys don't have the trust of the voters because you guys sit here and just.
And then they fumbled the midterms as well. Gaetz was doing really good in this interview till the end. Oh God, this ending could have been a lot better for Gaetz if he just kept his cool. I feel like he fumbled it. I feel like he went too hard too quick, and so then like Cenk and Ana both just was like, okay, they just basically tag teamed him because at that point nobody cared anyway. And so it looks like and it looks like he was dodging the thing about the girl too. Oh God, he really fumbled it. I mean, I'm not upset. I'm just amazed that he fumbled it because he was doing so well.
Just spew this nonsense that isn't relevant to people's lives. We're going to focus on inflation. We're going to focus on the border. We're going to focus on investigations. And the result is we're going to win in 2024. Democracy will be fine, and you guys will still be crying on the Young Turks.
You never answered the question. Did you sleep with a 17-year-old?
Absolutely not. That has been totally debunked. And by the way, more women have made accusations against Joe Biden than have made accusations against me.
We've talked about them.
You should be really proud of that.
Oh, that would be a bet. That actually hit a lot harder than I expected. Okay, damn.
Well,
Okay.
my number is 0. You can't even keep Bernie Sanders' endorsement, and Joe Biden doesn't exactly have a clean record himself. So we're pretty happy here in the Sunshine State. One Miami-Dade County, one my district. Looks like the House and Senate will flip, and eager to get to Washington to get to work.
House and Senate. Ooh, Gaetz.
Yeah.
Ooh.
By the way, there was one difference between us. The Democratic Party did not support me because I am against their corruption. Whereas you kissed the ass of the Republican leaders 24/7, so they were very happy to support
Cenk,
you.
you couldn't even hold Bernie. He endorsed you and had to unendorse you. Like, do you think Bernie is all of a sudden the establishment of the Democratic Party? He's not even a Democrat, and he left you on the side of the road with your 4% of the vote.
Oh, now, okay, he's taking Gaetz showing comeback kid energy.
Matt, I don't care about my personal career at all. I told
Really?
Bernie to do that. I actually wanted Bernie to win that.
I don't know why Cenk would make that a topic now. He made it a topic.
Election really badly, and I didn't want to get in his way because I care about policies. I care about higher wages. I care about everybody in the country getting health insurance. I care about them getting paid family leave. I care about them getting child tax credit. And what I heard from you tonight is when you guys win, you're not going to do anything about wages. You're going to make sure that people do not get any help in the categories that I just mentioned.
No, wages will go from the
The real evil
dark
is Medicaid,
times
to be
when
fair.
you guys win.
The real evil in the country is Medicaid.
And now
Gotta
the
do
American
something
people
about
are going to get something better in the Republican majority.
What a mess. What a complete mess. That was a complete mess. I think Anna did, okay, out of Cenk and I think Anna did better. Matt Gaetz did great at the start. He kind of fumbled at the end, and then at the end he was able to get one last jab in there. Kind of all over the place. I don't really think anybody came out of this net positive or net negative. I mean, anytime somebody gets to bring up that accusation, like, it probably doesn't help Gaetz. I've got to be completely honest. So I don't know. I think it kind of ended up being a wash overall. I think it ended up being a wash. Honestly, I think if Gaetz just kept his cool for like the middle when it started flipping and he started bringing up Cenk's personal political failings, like, oh, because if he would have saved this till the end to throw this out right now, it would have looked great. But I think he shot it too early. Anyway, I guess it's a wash.